Welcome back, everybody, to the Chillinois basketball podcast. Noah and I are here after another Illini win, which we are very excited about. This is two in a row now for us to recap. The Illini knock off the Ohio State Buckeyes in Columbus, Ohio, at the Value City Arena, 88 to 80 in the first true road test for the Illini, and the first Big Ten conference game for the Illini. It was a good game to watch. There was a lot to dislike in the game, but ultimately, I think as an Illini fan, you leave this one coming out of it feeling pretty optimistic going into the next couple of games at least. This is going to be specifically more of just a recap for this game. We're not going to get too much into the Nebraska game that's coming up on Saturday, but the Illini come out with another win, another most likely quad one victory at the end of the year, coming tournament time. Ohio State is a team that is now 7-2 after this loss, but they had performed pretty well. And they performed pretty well in this game, too. A lot of people on the Ohio State side, despite being upset with the loss, are saying this is the best Ohio State looked all season. The Illini got punched in the face a few times. I would say the refs probably punched both teams in the face a few times. But ultimately, Brad Underwood and company come up with a big win in Ohio State. Never an easy place to get a win from. Never easy to go on the road in the Big Ten and get a win. The Illini do it. And I don't know, Noah, you and I have both been watching this Illini team for a while. Um, but this is the 82nd Big Ten win under Brad Underwood the 82nd Big Ten win in the last 6 years for the Illini, which is number one in the Big Ten Conference. Um, there are games where they play these teams where I don't know if you were a fan 7 or 8 years ago under John Gross, but you were like, there's no way they win these games. It was close all game. The refs weren't giving them any advantage, and that went both ways, I would argue. There were a few times where Bruce Thornton was hitting circus shots where you're like, there is absolutely no way this went in. And 5 or 6 or 7 years ago in the John Gross era, you would have thought the Illini are not coming out of Ohio State with a win here. They're going to squander this lead somehow. But under Brad Underwood and in the last 6 years of Illini basketball, we've been fortunate enough to say it seems like most of the time they have these games under control. There were a lot of moments where you thought something could have gone wrong for the Illini, but ultimately, like I said before, they get the win 88 to 80. A lot went according to our predictions, at least from what we previewed in this game. But I saw a lot to be optimistic about for the next few games. But I'll let you get into it, Noah. What was your initial takeaways? This is the first time we've done a recap like immediately after the game, so it's still fresh in our minds. What did you like about this game?
Yeah, I liked a lot. I liked the freshman play a lot. Keaton, obviously, Merck, very good. I think it kind of went how we expected. The referees did, seem to do a little bit too much, especially in that second half. Overall, though, a gritty win, physical win. I mean, Ohio State always plays that way. They got a tough team and it's first game of the Big Ten, so I think maybe the referees were a little bit excited, Maybe that's why they were blowing their whistles a little bit more than usual. But I was super impressed with Keaton. Just continues to impress in terms of his veteran mentality, his athleticism. I mean, I think he's able to drive to the basket like as good as anybody on the team. At first I thought that was just kind of Kylan's thing, but every day Keaton just shows how diverse his talent pool is, and just a really, really good win from this Illinois team. And it's a win they needed to get, honestly, because if you lose this game, then you pretty much feel like it's last season all over again. Where, can they win the big games on the road? And, granted, this isn't a huge game, but it's one that you gotta win. These are the mid-tier Big Ten teams. I mean, Ohio State, you could make an argument that they should be ranked, top 25 in the AP, but they did, they took care of business on the road, did their job. It was a quick turnaround, so that was something that we were worried about. But most importantly, they made their free throws, and I think that was key for this victory today.
And yeah, you're always a big guy, at least when it comes to free throws. You're kind of old school like that. You think if teams make their free throws, they win games, and the Illini certainly proved that in this one. They were 29 for 32 on free throws. They didn't miss one until the second half. That's 91%. And when you look at how many free throws Ohio State made, they were 15 for 21. Um, I'm sorry, I believe I said 29 for 21 earlier. The Illini were 29 for 32. Ohio State was 15 for 21 at 71%. Um, Now, that's 6 points the Ohio State Buckeyes could have had. That doesn't necessarily tie the game up. But I mean, some of those were momentum killers. And when you talk about the free throws the Illini made, some of those were kind of daggers. So that's a good point you make there with the free throws. Now, you also mentioned Keaton Wagler, which I want to give props to because I don't think we've spoke about him in entirely. I don't think we spoke about him enough actually on this podcast so far. We've had our moments for Andre, we've had our moments for Merck, we've had our moments for Thomas Lovins, Vonnevar, and Kylan as well. I think we need to give Keaton Wagler his props here. I mentioned it in the last podcast, 34 minutes, zero turnovers, which is just absurd for a freshman. This game from the beginning, he just looked like the most dominant player on the court besides Bruce Thornton. And when the Illini needed a shot, he would hit a three, a big time walk-in three. Early on in the season, he's proven he can get in the lane comfortably. He has that nice little like turnaround jump shot at the elbow that he kind of does after doing a spin move, and I think that's something that teams are going to kind of key in on later when they see some scouting reports on him. But he's just so fluid in the lane. He never looks like he's out of control. Tonight he played 39 minutes, which was the most out of any Illini player. Makes sense given he was their highest scorer for the game. Only two turnovers. This is not typical freshman Illini numbers. This is not typical freshman college basketball numbers. Right now he's averaging about 18 points a game, and he's flown up NBA mock draft radars now. I think today they came out with one. I don't remember who it was, but I saw him listed at 23. If he continues to play like this, I wouldn't be shocked if he's in the top 15 by the end of the year. As an
That's
Illini
crazy.
fan, I kind of hope, I don't want him to play worse. I want him to continue to get better, but you would hope like maybe he doesn't see all the press about him, which is ridiculous. He's an 18-year-old kid. I'm sure he has social media.
Well, and
But
being on Illinois, you're going to get attention from the NBA. I mean, that's
yeah.
kind of one of the factors of Brad Underwood's coaching is, whether you're good or you're bad, there's going to be scouts there.
And he's just been so consistent, which is not something you can say for a lot of freshmen anywhere in the country. I know Koa Pete for Arizona has been pretty stellar this year, but the Illini just knocked off a Tennessee team with supposedly the number six pick in the draft, Nate Ament, and he was nowhere to be seen. Now you've got a guy like Keaton who every game is scoring at least 15 points, and he has his moments where it's like he does phase out of some of the bigger games. He didn't have a great performance against UConn, but tonight on the road against Ohio State in his first ever Big Ten conference game, 23 points. Let's see what he had on the boards. Two rebounds, not incredible for a guy his size. Five assists, though. And what was most impressive to me is when the Illini needed a basket down the stretch, he was the guy with the ball in his hands. You normally expect Kylan to have the ball in his hands at those moments, but I think allowing or having Keaton dribble the ball down the court and having him set up the offense allows Kylan to almost be a better player. And we didn't see it tonight. But Kylan's not necessarily like the facilitator on offense. He's the guy that's going to go get a bucket, and he's the guy that makes the extra pass to the corner for the three. Keaton sets it all up because Keaton can take you off the dribble, and Keaton's proven that deep in the shot clock in games. Um, if you need a bucket besides Andre, you can give the ball to Keaton now, which is pretty impressive to watch, especially for a guy who's 18 years old. Now, a big talking point about Keaton is kind of his similarity to Will Riley last year.
Yeah.
I think he's far and away above where Will Riley was in last season. But where do you see the comparison? Do you think Keaton's better? I mean, I would argue Keaton's better at this point in the season. He's more productive right now. It took Will Riley a few games to kind of get it going, besides his 31-point performance against Eastern Illinois in the opener for last year. But it, I know Will Riley was more highly recruited coming out of Canada. He reclassified, so it was like instead of being like the number five freshman, he was like the number 12 or number 17 or something in that range. Keaton was the 150th ranked player in the recruiting class of this season. He was the number 23 shooting guard. Please, please go down a list somebody and find 149 better players in this freshman class than Keaton Wagler. I like it, I know that's all kind of like hearsay and these guys don't necessarily know how they're going to perform in college, depending on what system they get into. But Keaton's been so impressive this year, man. And I know I asked you this already, but I'll get back to you before I'll ask you this again before I give the question to you. Where do you see him comparing with Will Riley? I know it's last year's team, but
Yeah, I really like the way he can slip in and out of the lane. I mean, I think Will was probably a little bit better, just a little bit quicker under the basket.
he has
Whereas I
size
think,
too. He's 2 inches taller, so
right, and that's going to help for sure. But I mean, when you look at Keaton, he's so calm. I think that's really what impresses people the most is Will Riley would oftentimes, get a little bit sped up, make those mistakes, those rookie mistakes, where Keaton doesn't seem to be making those mistakes. He's just calm, cool, and collected. He's not afraid to take the three. He's not afraid to drive it inside. And in a game like tonight, where the refs are blowing their whistles every 5 seconds, you want to be able to drive it to the basket. You want to draw some contact. You want to take advantage of that whistle. And I think he was able to do that. I mean, he's the captain now. That's what happened is he is the captain now. I think Kylan is that old veteran. He's like Master Splinter, kind of. And then he's got all of his young Balkan Ninja Turtles. And then Keaton Wagler as well. And I mean, I've talked about it. Wagler, it's a German name. I mean, you could almost tie him in with the European roots with that last, especially the way they pronounce it, Wagler. So, I mean, he's just impressed me so much. And like you were saying, I mean, where Will Riley was at last year, I think Keaton's way ahead of that. Now, will he be able to sustain that all the way through the end of the season? I don't know. I hope so. I mean, I think he can only get better. He seemed to be, going up and up every game they play. I mean, every once in a while he'll have a down game, but yeah, no, I mean, super impressed with him. I mean, getting back to Merck really quick, his free throw shooting tonight, what was his stat line? I mean, I didn't see him miss a single free throw when I was watching the game. It
he
was
was 8 for 8,
insane.
8 for 8
Yeah, I
on free
mean,
throws tonight.
very impressive, and that's something that he's been kind of struggling with for the rest of the season. So I'm glad to see that f shot falling for him, and it was falling for everybody. I mean, that's probably the reason we won. I mean, if you look at the scoreboard and if you look at, that first half, I thought the refs were kind of giving us some good whistles. But that quickly changed, and that second half was brutal. I mean, they were just calling the worst stuff. Just they didn't need to call some of this stuff, like Bruce Thornton flying to the basket, nobody touching him. They whistle, whistle, and he was already having a good enough game. It's like you really got to help him out even more. I mean, he was electric in that first half. I haven't seen anything like that in a while. I mean, he couldn't miss. Every time somebody else would take a shot, the crowd would boo. It's like, give him the ball, give him the ball. So what Keaton and Merck were able to do tonight as freshmen, very impressive. And I'd like to think it's only up from here. Maybe this is the game that boosts Merck's confidence. I know we've been talking about that. Like he needs that, that confidence builder. And, he wasn't a great shooting night for him, but he was able to make those free throws and make an impact on defense. The rebounding, I'll say tonight was a lot better than the Tennessee game. That's for sure. They were actually able to find some rebounds. Not as much as you'd want them to get, but it's a start, first Big Ten game. So they can only go up from here. And the reason that I was optimistic this whole game is because Bruce Thornton was having this insane game, and Illinois was still winning pretty much the entire game. There was maybe 1 point they were down at the very beginning or something like that, and then maybe they were tied at 1 point as well. But the fact that they were winning and Ohio State's best player was just completely popping off, you knew he couldn't sustain that the entire night. So it was only a matter of time before the depth of that Illinois bench would play in a factor. And thank God they do have a deep bench because they almost all fouled out. It's like that's one of the benefits of having Petro on the bench and having Big Z on the bench is if you do get in foul trouble with your starters, boom, look who's coming in. Their whole bench could be a starting lineup for, Minnesota. So overall, really impressed with Keaton, with Merck, with both the freshmen tonight.
What's going to be interesting to see is just as, especially Keaton. I know Merck kind of has had some up and down games. First half, he was kind of on fire from three, which was surprising to see compared to the stats he's had at the beginning of the season. He cooled off a little bit in the second half just because I think he got a little ahead of himself. He played a little bit out of control. There was an up and under with the left hand that he took where he just kind of flung it at the backboard, and it was like, David, you need to settle down. I think Brad took him out of the game at that point. But first half, he was cooking with fire. So was Keaton. Keaton continued that in the second half. But what'll be interesting to see, at least in my opinion, is just the Big Ten. You've got good coaches in the Big Ten, which means you've got good scouts in the Big Ten as grad assistants and other assistant coaches who are going to be scouting these players now. Keaton Wagler is no longer an underrated, under the radar player. He's a guy who's averaging 17 points a game up until this point, and the second leading scorer on the Illini, we're going to have to see once the averages come in from this one. I haven't done the math that quickly, but Keaton's going to be a guy people game plan for now. Same thing with Merkovich. People are going to game plan for him. So it's going to be interesting to watch how the Illini respond to that. It'll be interesting to see how the freshmen respond to that because there's not going to be any easy games for them from here on out. I don't care if you're playing. I mean, maybe that Southern game will be the last cupcake matchup they play, but there's easier matchups in the Big Ten, but there's no easy matchup in the Big Ten, especially for freshmen. So I'm really looking forward to.
Michigan Wolverines is the only easy one I can think of on the
Yeah,
schedule,
well,
but other than that,
that's the hottest take you've given so far, and we don't have to talk Michigan
no,
basketball.
still not as hot as my Jelly Roll take. I'll stand on that.
That's fair. But either way, this is going to be a long season, and it'll be interesting to see how they adapt to now teams actually preparing for them. Um, and then back to the point you made about Bruce Thornton. It looked like he was getting everything he wanted in that first half. And if there was anything I had to maybe tip my hat to the Buckeyes on, you can't even tip your hat to the Buckeyes because I mean it was just Bruce Thornton being unconscious in this game. Um, and you said earlier it was honestly an optimistic point that Bruce Thornton had 24 at halftime and the Illini were up, I think 6 points or 4 points. But it also worried me, and I know I texted you at halftime and said the only thing that concerns me about this is what if Devin Royal and John Mobley Jr. get going. They did a little bit in the second half. Bruce Thornton finished with 34 points, which is the second time the Illini have allowed a 30-point scorer on them this year. Devin Royal finished with 15, and John Mobley Jr. finished with 11. Nothing crazy, and I know I said pregame that it was going to be a lot of Ohio State driving to the basket. It certainly was that for Bruce Thornton, but everywhere else, the Illini seemed to do a pretty good job on defense. I was impressed with the second half performance. The only thing I wasn't impressed with, which I know you've already mentioned, was the officiating. And I never like to get into it with the refs, and it had the Illini not ended up, had the Illini not won this game, I wouldn't have felt it was on the refs because I think it was just pretty brutal on both sides of the ball, to be honest. Um, but they called 48 fouls in this game. There's 40 minutes of college basketball in a single game. That's over one foul a minute, and that just seems ridiculous to me. And I know who is the ref here? Jeffrey Anderson, I think his name is the he's the high knees ref that everybody always talks about. He runs down the court with his high knees. Nobody's a big fan of his. Uh, it just, especially in the first Big Ten basketball game for the Illini. I know this was Ohio State's second, but these are prime time. These are big time matchups. You don't want to see this being dictated by the officials. You've got really talented players on both sides of the ball. Bruce Thornton probably will go to the league for a little bit, whether he's on a two-way contract with the G League team somewhere. Only the future will tell. But there's some guys that are going to be professional on the Illini side at least, and you don't want to watch this game be a foul show. Um, like I said, I don't want to say it would have gone one way or the other had the refs called something different or had the Illini lost this game. But it seems to be kind of a common theme in college basketball that just the officiating is pretty subpar when you look at some of the officiating in other professional sports, other college sports. And I think it needs to be addressed because 48 fouls is ridiculous, man. And it just seemed like every single drive you knew what the outcome of the drive was going to be. If you got in the lane, it was going to be a foul. There was a play I texted you about kind of late in the second half where, it probably could be argued that Tomislav fouled. I think it was Tilly who was grabbing the rebound down low, Christoph Tilly for the Ohio State Buckeyes. It could have been argued that he got hit on the head, but Tommy and Tilly were both running down the court. I think Tilly was already over half court, and then Anderson blows the whistle, which seemed like an accident, and then he called a foul on Tomislav for a play that nearly happened 4 seconds earlier. And it was like, what is that foul call? Like, it's not even the fact that the foul was called because, like I said, if you watch the replay, it could have been a foul, but 4 seconds later is ridiculous. Um, so it's just been subpar in my opinion all season. I'm not sure what your take on the officiating is, but something needs to be figured out. I wouldn't be surprised if Brad Underwood sent a report card about the refs this game to the Big Ten in Chicago, and was like, "You guys got to get this figured out, man."
Well, the Big Ten's supposed to be the league where you can play a little bit tougher and you get a little bit more gritty and it's Big Ten basketball, Big Ten basketball. So what's Big Ten basketball? Blow the whistle every 5 seconds? It's like that's not fun to watch. And it's always been known that Big Ten officiating is the worst in the league. I mean, people always joke about it every year. So I don't know if I mean you'd think that for a league now that's doing NIL, I mean, college basketball, they make a lot of money, these teams. You'd think these conferences, I mean, is the Big Ten hiring their own refs? I mean, that's weird. Like, why wouldn't, they all just be hired by one group? They should be as good as the NBA refs. I mean, not that college basketball probably, doesn't make nearly as much as the NBA does, but with these players making the money they are and these coaches making the money they are, and they got rec league refs coming in, like, just I don't know if they're incentivizing them to blow the whistle. Like, hey, every time you blow it, you make $10. I don't really know what the deal is. I mean, it's weird that they're trying to interact with the game this much. It doesn't need to be done, and it makes for a bad product. It makes for a lot of dead air time, and maybe they're simply trying to get more commercial breaks in. Maybe they're telling them, hey, we need to get 500 commercials in this game, so keep blowing that whistle. We'll keep going to commercial break. I don't really know what the deal is, but it ha wasn't like that in non-conference play, and it's just something that the Big Ten has a big problem with, and I don't, it's an internal problem, so they need to work on it themselves. But it does get interesting because then you get into March and you're used to officiating for all these months, and then all of a sudden the officiating is totally different, and it throws you off. And that's one of my theories why the Big Ten doesn't do as well in the tournaments because they're used to playing this certain type of basketball, and then they get in the tournament and the refs are letting them do whatever they want, and it's a much quicker pace, and so these teams get a little bit, discombobulated, and I don't know. I've never been a big fan of the referees in this league, so hopefully they can fix it, but it might just be the cross we have to bear.
Yeah, and it's something that I mean I don't expect it to change quickly, so the Illini will be dealing with it for the rest of the season. But ultimately, it's optimistic and a good thing looking forward that they can get through these tough road games despite the obstacles that they may face during them, especially against a pretty decent team like Ohio State. Now, we're going to be doing a recap for the Nebraska game coming up on Saturday. So we don't want to get into like too many details about this Nebraska team yet, but I do want to look forward on the schedule a little bit, Noah, um, because it's exciting if you look at it from my opinion at least. You got number 23 Nebraska, who's most recently ranked in the most recent AP poll at least. So that won't be an easy game, but it's the Illini's first Big Ten home game. Then you got the bragging rights game against Missouri, which is never an easy game as well, but all things considered, the Illini should take care of business. Hopefully, you would expect them to. Then you got a game against Southern, which is the last non-conference game they'll play this year. And then you get into the Big Ten play for the rest of the season, but they open up the schedule with some pretty, like I said earlier, there's no easy Big Ten games, but in terms of the teams they'll play the rest of the season, so you got Nebraska, Missouri, Southern, then you've got Penn State on the road, then you've got Rutgers at home, then Iowa on the road, then at Northwestern, then Minnesota at home, then Maryland. So before you play at Purdue on the 24th of January, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 if you look at it on paper. They're going to be favored by Vegas. Um, they're going to be expected to win. And the Illini are ranked number 13 in the country right now at 8-2. Where do you see, we'll break down the Nebraska game in the next episode, but where do you see this Illini team after those 9 games? Because it wouldn't be completely irrational to expect the Illini to maybe be 17-2 after that stretch. Um, I would say, knowing the Illini, knowing how long I've followed this team, I would not expect them to be 17-2. I think they're going to end up having a game where they aren't as focused as they should be and they drop one they shouldn't lose. But on paper, these are all games up until the Purdue game. These are all games I would expect the Illini to be favored in. And at number 13, if you continue to win games and you're 17-2 going into January 24th against Purdue, that could very likely be a top 10 matchup. That could very likely be an Illini team that we see in the top five at that point if other ranked teams keep losing. Where's your head at for these next 9 games, Noah? Because it's pretty optimistic looking, at least on schedule terms. Um, and they're games that are going to be tough, but if the Illini can win and get some momentum, it's like, wow. If they go into some of these ranked matchups at the end of the season as hot as they are, as hot as we expect them to be, oh man, dude, like look out come March. But what are your thoughts on that? Because this isn't necessarily the most difficult schedule the Illini will face for the rest of the season, at least in the next 9.
Yeah, I mean, we're 13 right now, but I think we're number one. I do have my thumb finger. It's hard to pick up right now on the camera.
The orange background, it's not showing. Oh, there we go.
I've had this for many years. This is my prized possession. It's not Illinois specific at all. It's very vague. It's just we are number one, whatever sport that may be, whatever team that may be, it's applicable. But to answer your question, I think we should be able to win all these games, to be quite honest. I mean, Nebraska scares me because that's on the road, right?
No,
And
it's their first home game in the Big Ten.
oh, okay, well then great. I mean, that should be a good W. I mean, even on the road, I think we can win that game, but at home, I like our odds there a lot. That's not a particularly, I mean, unless they just get insane hot from the three, then of course, then they could win it. But I think Illinois should be able to take care of business there. The bragging rights game, that was scaring me for a little bit, but Missouri just, they don't look like super scary this year, honestly. They lost like 20 points to whoever the hell it was. And
Kansas
so,
yesterday, yeah, or
yeah,
Kansas 2 days
so,
ago.
yeah, so they're not really impressing me much. And we seem to have their number lately. That Purdue game, that one's tempting. Is that also a home game?
Well, that's the first of those 9 that they're gonna play that I think is gonna be a difficult matchup. That'll like end their streak of semi-winnable games. But yeah, they do play Purdue on the road. That'll be their first
That's
like
going to be a tough
actual
game. But
matchup. Yeah.
Purdue's beatable. This is the most beatable Purdue team there's been in a few years, I think. I mean, since before Zach Edey, probably. They might be a better Purdue team than last year, but either way, I mean, I think Illinois can win that game. Will they win that game? That's a different question. I wouldn't bet on Illinois to win that game, but you'd hope that at least with this Nebraska game, this Missouri game, they can find their rhythm, get comfortable, pick up some much needed wins to, stat their records. And then when they do play these tough games, as long as they can keep it competitive, because that's what they're looking for in March. I mean, what Illinois tends to do is screw themselves with these 30-point blowout losses to Duke, and it's just these crazy games where you can't afford to do that. So I'm not too worried about it. They have, 6 days off here, whatever it is, to prepare for the next game. So I think they'll reset, they'll get ready, and they'll eat some corn. They'll husk some corn.
And we will definitely discuss that before that game. We'll do a preview for you guys. But it sounds like we're kind of on the same page here with the next few games the Illini do have coming up. I don't like making predictions, like I said, because I think if I were to say the Illini are going to go 9-0 in these games, they could very well go 0-9 in these games somehow. But it's an easier schedule in terms of if you're going to say Big Ten games are easy, and it bodes well for the Illini, especially a team that's still gelling, still trying to figure it out in terms of where some of their players have roles. Really, the only thing besides the refs and besides Bruce Thornton that I really had an issue with tonight, if I'm going to be nitpicky about the Illini, and before we get wrapped up here, is just there's still players that I want to see get integrated into this offense. I want to see get integrated into the team and have a role. Brandon Lee hasn't played in the last 2. I don't know if that's an injury thing. He wasn't listed on the
Yeah,
injury,
well, where's Brandon Lee at? That's I've noticed that as well.
and he has
And
shown
Petro
he,
played 1 minute tonight. Petro played 1 minute.
yeah.
Why
By the way,
even
now,
dress him? Why even do? It's like, dude, you gotta. And I get it was a tight game the whole time, but then start him. Maybe t bring him in early so that he can, still get 5, 6 minutes, but he's not playing in those impactful minutes at the end of the game. I just want to see him on the court because I feel bad just because what's going to happen is he's just going to transfer. He's going to go somewhere else. I mean, and
I
he's
mean,
probably really good.
there's already reports I've been seeing, and this is just hearsay because it's people posting on an Illinois basketball forum. But there was a guy who mentioned at this rate, I mean, why wouldn't Petrovic just transfer back, or not even transfer? Why wouldn't he just go back to Serbia and play once again in the professional league at the winter break? Because he's not really getting any minutes now. There is NIL involved, so I'm fairly certain he's getting paid more than he would be in
And he
Serbia.
probably has to stay. I mean, with those deals now, they're basically contracts. I mean, you can't,
Yeah, there's a lot of that. I mean, there's other factors involved for sure, but if I had to make any point about the Illini negatively and being a little nitpicky here, especially after a win like that, it's just like I want to see this team have some of their role players establish what their roles are. Petrovic, um, Zvonimir, I think, had a good game tonight, but Brandon Lee, I think he can be really influential defensively, especially when Kylan maybe has some fouls. So I'd like to see all of those guys get more integrated into the team. But that's just being really nitpicky, and that's kind of a double-edged sword too. And I'll wrap it up with this because once again, kind of like I said last game, we got Merck with however many points. I think let me go back to the stats because I'm not going to remember this off the exact top of my head. But Merck
I
tonight,
want I want to give a shout out to those guys that were dressed up behind the bench.
oh yeah,
I don't know, I guess they were donors or something. That's what they were saying on TV.
they
Because
look
there were no
good.
fans there. Like usually you have like the fan section behind the bench, but it was all Ohio State. I mean, they must not have sold any tickets to Illinois fans. I don't know. But those dudes in the orange jumpsuits, they showed up. They had cigarettes.
At the end of the
I'm
game, yeah.
surprised they allowed them to get those cigarettes in the stadium. I mean, that's
I'd argue,
great.
I'd say they were probably fake, but it was still a funny
But
touch.
still, I mean, yeah, I'm surprised nowadays. Oh, that's not, you can't do that. You can't have that on TV. But those guys are pretty cool, and I like to think that they were our good luck charm. So preferably, if they could come to every game, that would be ideal.
We need them and Jelly Roll there.
Yeah,
Uh,
yes.
and
If that happens, we might win a national championship. And Kylan needs to get the Sage going. I mean, what the hell's going on here? We're barely winning these games because we don't have Sage. Get that out, Kylan.
I
Burn
think
it,
that
light
hurt
it.
the team last year, but I mean, all
Yeah.
things considered, we're gonna have a couple games here in a row where we're gonna find out what some of these players' roles are. As I was alluding to before, you had Merkovich with 22 tonight. You had Keaton Wagler with 23 tonight. Andre had a quiet 17. You could probably say Andre had an off game. But as I said in an earlier episode on this podcast, that's where the Illini get you. They have seven or eight different players, potentially nine if you add Brandon Lee and Petrovic in there, that can get you on any given night. I'm still fully of the belief that we're going to have a Jake Davis game. We're going to have a Ben Humrickhouse game. We're going to have a Petrovic game. I wouldn't be shocked if we have a Brandon Lee game where he scores like 10 points, has 4 rebounds,
He
gets.
might have already had his game. He had that one crazy game where he was like 9 for 9 shooting, just was literally a perfect game from
That
him.
was the Illinois State exhibition, but
Oh, sheesh. Yeah, he's got to have a real game. He's got to get his
He's
kid
proven
back.
he can do it. He's proven he can do
Did
it.
you
And
guys see the exhibition though? Did you
Illinois State's no slouch, so he's proven he can do it. But yeah, a lot to look forward to here with Illinois basketball. First Big Ten win, first road win for this Illini team. They knocked off Ohio State 88 to 80 tonight in Columbus. There's another Illini basketball game. They play in Champaign, so their first home Big Ten game against number 23 Nebraska on Saturday. That game is also going to be on Peacock and it is at 3 p.m. So it'll be one of those interesting midday games. We're going to discuss that on the next episode of this podcast. So we'll have a preview for that one coming out pretty soon. But Noah, other than optimism, there's not a whole lot else to say about this Illini team. I'm excited going forward. Another win in the books. You can never argue with that. There's some things I'd like to see him clean up. Um, 88 to 80 Illini over the Ohio State. It's been a tough week to be a Buckeye fan, man. So I do
Yeah,
have friends who are
that's
Buckeye fans, and all I can say is eat No, I'm not gonna say it on the podcast, but like I would really
Ohio State. What
Ohno.
happened?
Ohno, baby. So we'll wrap it up with that. But Noah, it's been good having you here again. ILL, man.
I and I.